Either
Bene.
any, just again with hands, as long as you throw your hands.
I love it.
Bene.
Nah.
Jason, bene.
Silveri bene Calvarese. There's our cold open.
All right, everyone, warm up those brains. It's time for the Get More Smarter podcast. This one is episode 254. I'm Jason Bain.
I'm Ian Silveri. This week on the Get More Smarter podcast, the federal government shutdown enters its second-ish week, and Democrats seem to have the upper hand, at least so far. Then, can puppy killer DHS Secretary Kristi Noem and her masked goons defeat an army of grannies with ukuleles and people in inflatable Halloween costumes in war-ravaged Portland, Oregon? We'll find out. Even though 2026 is a few months away, we've got some more updates on the campaigns that matter most to Colorado. And we'll tell you who didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize. Spoiler, it's the guy who's sicking the military on his own citizens and canceled billions of dollars in foreign aid to starving children across the world. Also, in our continuing quest to interview every viable Democrat running for a major office in Colorado, Trisha Calvarese is on the pod to talk about her labor background, her ground game in the district, and why CD4 primary voters should give her a second chance to take on our 7th favorite member of Congress from Colorado. It is now my absolute pleasure to introduce our guest today, Trisha Calvarese, a Colorado native who grew up in Sterling and Highlands Ranch, graduated from Douglas County Public Schools, and earned a full academic scholarship to Johns Hopkins University. She spent years in Washington fighting for working people, first as a speechwriter at the AFL-CIO, representing 12 million workers, alongside leaders like President Richard Trumka and Liz Shuler, then at the National Science Foundation, where she helped secure $80 billion in science and tech innovation. When both her parents were diagnosed with cancer, Trisha returned home to Colorado to take care of them, and before he passed, her father, a lifelong Republican, encouraged her to give back to the community that gave her so much and so much to their family. She was the Democratic nominee for Colorado's 4th congressional district in 2024, and she's back to take another crack at it in 2026. Trisha Calvarese, welcome to the Get More Smarter podcast.
Woo! Thank you so much for having me. Thrilled to be here. You both rock. Let's go. We're going to
Well, it's so nice to have you. I think we should disclose that I worked a little bit on your campaign last time around, but now you're out there, I'm over here, and now we're interviewing you. So besides what I read in your little intro bio there, what should listeners and viewers know about you and why you're running for
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a hometown girl through and through. Earliest days were in Sterling. Dad was the city attorney. And my story actually begins with access to rural health care. Mom had an ectopic pregnancy, had to be removed. It was an absolute emergency. Thank God there was a hospital and that there was a doctor there, saved her life, made mine possible the next year. But ultimately, that experience scared my mom so much. You know, my parents moved closer to care. So I grew up with Douglas County in Highlands Ranch. I went to Fox Creek, Crest Hill, Highlands Ranch High. My parents were conservative. And I ultimately became a Democrat after hearing John Kerry speak about climate. I thought that was going to be so important for my generation. And like you said, earned a full academic scholarship to Johns Hopkins, thought I was doing everything right, and then graduated into the worst economy since the Great Depression. And when your roommate is like a Marlboro heiress and her daddy can't get her a job, what is a middle-class child of civil servant and a child care provider going to do? So I was like, all right, least popular place in the country is the Senate. Maybe I can get a job there. So I literally cold call the entire Senate, like every single office. I heard from the 2 independents. And Lieberman was like, girl from the West, do you even know where Connecticut is on this map? Like, no thanks. And Bernie's office was like...
Is that part of it? That's like the first question in the
interview?
Yeah.
So but Bernie's office was like, listen, like, smelly old man who doesn't get along with anybody, third rail, you will never work in Washington, D.C. again. We've never had a press intern. We don't even know what you do. And I'd be like, I will take it. I will take it. Thank you. And I will never forget writing that press release, too big to fail, too big to exist. And that has been the thrust of my entire adult life, of just fighting for those pathways into the middle class, for stronger footing in the middle class, the backslide for the first time, right, in America, in my generation. And so it's, you know, it hasn't really been a luxury to kind of be a newcomer to politics. I have been in it. And you know, I was at AFL-CIO. We lobbied the administration and were able to pass landmark investments that are bringing jobs to Colorado for. Well, they were supposed to before Lauren Boebert did all that progress. And then I was in government. at the U.S. National Science Foundation, and I actually worked for a Trump appointee. And we shook up the agency, we shook up the science and tech enterprise. The whole point is to bring it away from the coasts, from those elite universities, bring it to places like Colorado 4. We don't have traditional four-year colleges or universities,
right.
but we have amazing community colleges, right? And we have incredible, ag infrastructure. There's a lot of opportunity here. So we were working on that. It was so exciting when I got a call 2 years ago this month from my mom. She had pancreatic cancer. And that came out of left field because my dad had been struggling with years with kidney cancer. And I'm an only child. So thank God I was in a union because I could just drop everything, come home, and provide their end of life care. That experience was so bonkers. To be in Highlands Ranch in 2023 and trying to find a place that could provide my mom's end of care, and there were no options. So ultimately, I provided that end of life care at home. It was the toughest, just most honorable thing I have ever done in my life. It should not be this hard. This is coming for everybody. I'm not a special case.
Right.
I remember there was one moment, Ian, where my dad had he didn't quite, he threw up on the stairs. Mom pooped on the floor. Like somebody was at the door and the phone rang. And it was this doctor telling me I needed to fax a form. Like, I am a millennial, okay? So you're going to tell me to fax in the middle of this. That's it. I will dedicate the rest of my life to changing this because that's not going to work.
Right.
That is not going to work for anybody.
Right.
And, my dad, lifelong Republican, he told me, kid, you got to, right before he died, you got to step up. You got to run. It's on you now. And so that's what I did. And, we made remarkable progress. And I am so committed to finishing the job. Yeah.
What is it you do now professionally when you're not running for Congress?
Oh, I am running. This is 24/7, every day, no days off.
Or before that, I guess. Like what
I
were
was
you
a civil
doing?
servant at the U.S. National Science Foundation in the office
That was the
of
last thing.
director.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I wrote for Dr. Panchanathan. He was a unanimously confirmed Senate nominee from the Trump administration.
We used to have
And we
those.
passed,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you remember those? Yeah, exactly. So we passed CHIPS and Science Act, and I did op-eds with Ro Khanna. I did them with former Republican governor of Nevada. This was about economic competitiveness, investing in America, right? Because you can tariff all day long, but if you don't have the industrial policy that goes with it, how are you actually going to bring home American manufacturing?
Right.
Which is what we want to drive down prices, right? And to create opportunity. So I was literally on this. It was like technology innovation partnership, literally created by CHIPS and Science Act. I was on detail. We were working on that. And we were even kind of looking at these engines, like where are we going to create these next engines of innovation? And we picked Colorado to be a climate engine. Okay. There's
Makes sense.
hundreds of millions of dollars on the line. Like we should be the world leader in climate tech, in renewable energy. And we are already seeing some of those investments come online. There's more that have already been authorized, appropriated bipartisanly that this administration is illegally holding back. And Lauren Boebert has completely abandoned her responsibility as a representative. Go get that. Go get those investments. Bring them home.
You lost Boebert by about 10 points in 2024, which is actually a pretty big difference considering that the voter makeup really favors Republicans, more like 28 points, I think. What was your biggest takeaway in terms of how that margin closed and then how you finished that 10 points?
Yeah. And that was against headwinds.
Right.
It's not only that Lauren Boebert is a crappy candidate, right? Where she underperformed Trump by some 6 or 7 points. It's also that I overperformed Harris.
Right.
And if you look at the down ballot races, I overperformed 11 out of 12.
Wow.
It's because I'm a homegrown candidate. It's because when I talk to folks, they understand it's not the frick about my resume. It's about what the hell I'm going to do for them. And I'm going to show up for them and I'm going to fight for them. I'm going to lower their costs. And where you're seeing MAGA isn't a coherent coalition. That's what I found out. Okay. And I can talk Republican. My dad was your traditional Republican. Mom was MAGA. And like I said, I was Bernie's very first press intern.
Right.
So we had some interesting debates in our house. But where we landed on common ground was on that economic populist messaging. So it's finding where can we divide MAGA, right? Because where were they successful? They took the language of the labor movement. They talked about the middle class. They talked about jobs when Democrats stopped doing that. So it's getting back to that, representing that, and meeting people where they are. We only need 1 in 15 to flip. Only 1 in 15. And when you're seeing people like MTG buck her party,
Right,
and saying these are issues we need to address,
Yeah.
that's where we're going. I'll also tell you, farmers. You can call a farmer, you got to earn it. You got to earn their trust, okay? And you can't pretend like you're some huckster who, you got to keep calling, and you have to show up. You have to show up on their farms, and you have to listen. And I'll tell you what farmers are telling me right now. There is a land grab plot afoot.
yeah.
Let me say that
Talk
again.
about that a little bit. I keep hearing about like JD Vance is involved in like some kind of tech company. Is this what we're talking about?
Yes. So, and this is coming, I'm not making this up. This is coming from farmers directly. So they're already being hit so hard with the tariffs. They've lost market access. Inputs are up. I mean, fertilizers through the roof. And at the same time, we just handed a bunch of capital to these billionaires in that big, ugly billionaire bill that Boebert voted for. These folks are getting so desperate, they're going to have to start selling off their land. And
Terrible.
there's already an app for that. Bundles and sells farmland to foreign entities, to private hedge funds. And guess who owns it and makes a sale from every, a profit from every sale? It's JD Vance.
That's
Acre
fucking
Trader.
crazy. I read about
know,
this, and it's like the stuff of
and that's a
conspiracy
national
theories.
security issue. That's
Right.
right. I mean, and that's like how everybody knows affordability is the frickin' problem, right? Where are the solutions? Like, break down affordability. What are the actual costs? Care. Everybody talks about care. Number 2, food. It's our food. So help our farmers to be more productive. Lauren Boebert's sitting on our hands. There's no farm bill. And you better believe these farmers, they don't want to bail out. They don't want you rehanding the money that they already paid to them, right?
that was weird.
They want market access. So, but it's understanding the issues on their terms, where maybe we don't, call it price gouging. We call it price fixing about those middlemen. But I'm learning that language. I'm making those inroads where they have not been before and doing the work to get those votes.
So you worked really, really hard last time. You overperformed the district. You overperformed the presidential candidate. Lauren Boebert underperformed on all of her, but you couldn't quite make it work. Why did you decide to run again in 2026?
We have to finish the job. And here's the deal. Boebert did pull a bit of a fast one on voters, right? Ditching her old district, carpetbagging over here at the last minute. So folks are still getting to know her, right? People work hard. They're busy. They're not, we're plugged in where they're not necessarily paying attention. Hey, guess what Lauren Boebert is working on in Washington, D.C. right now amid all the crises? She's focused on UFOs.
That's what I was going to say, fucking space aliens or underwater aliens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Either one.
Which, girl, if that's your contribution to distracting from the Epstein files,
Right.
at least use it to advocate to bring Space Force back to Colorado, right? Like something like that.
That's an interesting connection. I hadn't thought about that.
We don't have underwater aliens here, I don't think.
I don't
In the
know.
landlocked
Grand Lake
district
is
of
pretty,
Colorado.
man. You never know.
Yeah, maybe.
So
Yeah.
as we talked about, we interviewed your one of your primary opponents, Eileen Laubacher, and you're running against her in the primary. She's a retired Rear Admiral, former NSC staffer. You've got your own credentials, which we've discussed, of course. How do you run against somebody with her background? And she's raised about $2 million so far from what we can tell. What's your plan to win the primary?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really don't think Colorado 4 needs a carpetbagger from either party. I'm in the community. I'm doing the work. I'm still showing up. So in Douglas County, for example, where there's 50% of the vote, okay, I narrowed that margin. I'm still here. I knocked 400 doors to help us defeat that home rule takeover. Are you guys aware of that?
Yeah.
Yes,
We had
that was
fans of the show write in about that, and we covered that whole weird power grab thing. I didn't realize you were involved in defeating that too. Congrats. That was a big deal.
Oh, heck yeah. Are you kidding me? When I saw our county commissioners go meet with Boebert, come back and be like, oh, we're running part of Project 2025 in my backyard. Okay, let's go. Because I also, would like to not be deported to our gulag in South
Explain for
America.
listeners who might have missed that episode what
Yep.
that whole power grab in Dougco was about, would you?
Okay, so it was cooked up by our Turkey County commissioners to just shove it on the ballot to try to give them home rule. Just it was an utter power grab.
Right.
And we defeated it by 71%.
That was pretty wild. And it wasn't just
71.
that you crushed it. It was that the current commissioners were running to be theoretically on the board of the new home rule territory, and they all got smoked too. That
And
was
that
really
really
funny.
brought the community together, right, at a time where we're so divided, in our little echo chambers. That was so refreshing to talk to reasonable Republicans, to talk to unaffiliated voters, to come together on this, on shared values, and to crush it. And we're keeping that coalition going. We're keeping that momentum going. It's one thing where you can say, oh, I'm going to appeal to Republicans. I'm going to appeal to, unaffiliates. It's another thing to actually do it, to walk the walk, to get people like, Mandy Connell to retweet something that you're tweeting about, defeating home rule. Like that's actual engagement with these folks. I mean, and same with the libertarian chair of the Colorado Party, where she's giving me a hat tip for my brand of democratic politics. We're onto something, man, and we're going to just keep it going. And that's the tough thing, as a millennial, a first-time candidate, I'm not bringing, a ton of clout or donors or anything like this. It's all grassroots. It is community-based, and it's people over politics. And we're putting in the work, and it's a heck of a lot of hard work, I'll tell you that. But people see me busting my butt on this campaign. They know I'm going to work so hard for them in D.C.
You've been endorsed by Betsy Markey, who was the last Democrat to win in this district, although it was a lot different district in 2008. It's been changed several times now. What was her advice that you think you're applying or best applies for 2026?
Show up. I mean, show up. And that's where, it's a giant district, y'all. It touches 5 states. There's 21 counties. It takes work. But show up. Show up and shut up. Listen. Listen to you know what I mean? You don't come with them. You listen to them. But you show up. Make those inroads now. And that's exactly what we're doing. And we have the luxury of time to be able to do that now. There's a consortium of rural hospitals, for example, right? We have 11 within this one consortium. I met with the CEO. He's like, I will drive you personally to every single one. And we're like, no, it's what we were planning to do it anyway. So we're doing these roundtables, and, visit after visit, these CEOs are like, thanks for coming. We've never had, somebody come out here before since Betsy Markey. Or, there has been no representation to even have a conversation with us. So
I actually like show up and shut up as a very untraditional slogan for a candidate. That's
right,
really
show
good.
up and shut up. And you hear from them. That's right.
So are you worried that a competitive primary might hurt the eventual nominee's chances, whether that's you or Eileen or somebody else? Or do you think it's going to help sharpen up the campaign and build the support and momentum needed to win in November?
Yeah, I certainly think it could. And it's going to be a big story when I defeat her, too, is the other thing, which is, of course, going to just give us more momentum. But I do hope we all come together in the end behind the candidate. And I look forward to a robust primary, a robust process. Let's go.
Let's talk a little bit more about Lauren Boebert.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Long story short, what's the case against her that you think resonates best in that district?
Ineffective, not doing her job. Border security within reason on bipartisan measures, right? There were 3 of them, 3 bipartisan votes on border security. Boebert didn't even bother to show up. She's not showing up in district for us, hasn't done a town hall. I love to do that, to go on the Eastern Plains, meet with people and be like, have you seen Lauren Boebert? Does anybody has anybody seen Lauren Boebert? And the answer is always no, of course not.
You think that, with her underperformance and the fact that, you came pretty close, all things considered, that she gets pretty bad press on a consistent basis, that she would at least try, or at least pretend to try, to, go out and earn it this time? She just moved to the most Republican district in the state and is now just taking it for granted. Is that your read?
Totally. And then, she is we can see where she's taking some cues for us, where we finally, somebody lit a fire under her butt and was like, go at least get a photo op with some healthcare something, right? So no, she's totally ineffective. We've been hearing, just the way she's running her office. And I've been talking to Republicans some key Republicans, right, who are giving me feedback about her customer service sucks. She's not not actually delivering for people. I mean, that's what the job is ultimately at the end of the day, like you're serving the people in our district. And so that's, I'm hearing that from Republicans, Dems, and independents. Like she's just ineffective.
Let's talk about that a little more. I mean, in order to actually win the general election, you're going to have to win over some people that probably voted for her in the past. So how do you talk about her with voters who may have voted for her or supported her in the past?
Absolutely. Sometimes I'm asking why, and a lot of times they can't answer. They just they click the ticket. So where would you split? Where would you split? And we're finding healthcare. That's absolutely one. Here's another one. A couple weeks ago, a Republican invited me to a summit on digital safety. This is a huge issue. Like, we need to regulate AI. Okay, that's also like, let's get going on that. 1 in 5 kids, teenagers who's been online has been sexploited.
1 in 5?
Well, I know. 1 in 5. Yeah.
Wow.
Like it's a huge issue. And I actually, so it was the Digital Safety Summit. This Republican invited me, and there's this incredible representative from the South Carolina State House who shared his story of how his son, a happy, healthy teenager, within being sexploited, it was something like within 45 minutes, killed himself.
Oh my God. One of these like extortion schemes with like like an AI person or whatever. Yeah, I've been reading about these. They're terrible.
There's farms. It's a national security issue. There's farms in foreign nations that are targeting teenagers in the U.S. And then, of course, there's the issue of things like AI companions. So it's something like 70%. 70% of kids online are engaging with these AI companions.
Jesus.
We got to get in front. And that's to say nothing also of the way we need to regulate AI. It is the most heartbreaking thing to meet these 20-year-olds who are living in their parents' house who are like, I did everything right. I did computer science like I was told. Now I can't even get into the job market.
Right.
Because AI has taken all those entry-level jobs. So, okay, that's going to fall off, guys. Hang on. Sorry. I heard it. Are you cool with that?
Nice job. I have this whole little thing over here with like these little mix tiles or whatever. And every once in a while we'll be recording and one'll fall off the fucking wall.
I'll just be like, boop.
Yeah. It makes like a big loud noise.
Can I tell you? So this story was really... Boebert has done absolutely no in-person town halls.
Right.
She only did one like tele town hall. And when somebody asked her point blank, are you going to oppose privatizing the post office? Because that is such a lifeline, especially in our rural communities. She didn't answer. She pivoted and she talked about one time how she accidentally pet a coyote. So like, that's where you know what I mean? Like we just got to put a spotlight on what she does, and we got to let folks know. So there you go. Sorry, but to get back to, did I answer your question? Was that?
Yeah. Let's say that you could ask Boebert one question and she had to answer truthfully. What would you ask her?
The first time in our first debate, Lauren, when I asked you how the hell you voted against cancer care for veterans exposed to toxic burn pits during war, how'd you do that?
Act, right?
You told me the bill was too long and you couldn't read it in time. Okay? So applying that same logic, how the hell did you vote for the largest transfer of wealth in U.S. history, the largest bill to kick people off of their health care in U.S. history? It was a pretty big bill. So did you actually read it? How'd you pass that in that time without reading?
Pretty good. How does Donald Trump figure into all this? Lauren Boebert underperformed President Trump. You overperformed Vice President Kamala Harris. But obviously, you're going to have to win over a decent chunk of Trump voters. You're going to have to tell them where to split their ticket, like you said, right, over there on the congressional line. How does the president and his policies and his second administration figure into all this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a really great question. Again, I worked for a Senate-confirmed Trump nominee, and we were working to to totally shake up the science and tech enterprise so that it creates good middle-class jobs for people right here in Colorado Ford. And I'm continuing that. And I think that, let's find where there is alignment. Okay, let's find where we can work together. I think that in some cases, tariffs can be strategically, they can work, but they have to be balanced with smart policy. And that's what I'm fighting for. And when I'm talking to these CEOs of these hospitals on the Eastern Plain, some of them are so innovative, they're so forward looking and excited about, even though there's so many challenges, we can make the Eastern Plains a manufacturing hub for America's medicines, for our biomedical devices, for the things we need to retrofit our homes on the Front Range as we have an aging population, right? I'm for economic development. And here's the other thing. I'm coming from the labor movement. We work with people from every background, every persuasion, every industry. Right? I am here for the economy of America and for Colorado's 4th district, for our people to be in the middle class, to have that secure footing, to make to be affordable to live again. And people, that resonates. People understand that.
One more strategy question about the district. In 20, because this is a newer district in terms of the makeup, so we're still learning about it. In 2026, where do you think the district is won? What part of the district? Where are the votes that are going to swing it?
Excellent question. Douglas is going to be huge. So is Larimer, so is Weld, so is Arapahoe. And to give you kind of a little bit of hope, 9 out of 10 counties, right, in the last cycle, they shifted red. They went in the wrong direction. I was actually able to flip 2 within my district and then to narrow that margin in Douglas. So that's where we are just going to keep going, keep pounding the pavement, especially.
Is it Douglas then?
It's Douglas is huge. And that's where we're already, knocking doors for our school board candidates. Of course, that's so important. Arapahoe, too. We got to make more inroads in Weld and Larimer.
I got to make you pick, though.
Yeah. Loveland. I'd say Loveland. Well, that's why I'm on the road all the time. No days off. It's a big district. Yeah. Douglas County. I would say Douglas County, though, and Loveland are huge. We're getting a lot of traction in Loveland as well. Yeah.
So tell our listeners and viewers where they can find you online, where they can get involved in the campaign, how they can get connected and help out.
Absolutely. So it's TrishaForColorado.com. Pitch in, guys. I'm grassroots. You got a couple bucks, send them my way. I'm also getting on the ballot through caucus and assembly. I think that is one of the most important kind of democratic processes we have. So if you're in district, we would love for you to be a delegate. So do sign up. We have that on our website, but TrishaForColorado.com. We're going to do this, guys. Let's go.
Trisha Calvarese, Democrat for Colorado's 4th Congressional District. Thank you so much for joining us on the Get More Smarter podcast. It was great to see you again. We appreciate what you're doing. Go fight, win.
Well, go fight, win. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll start with a quick preview for next week. Ballots are arriving. You've probably gotten them in the mail, or
I got my email. I got my
Yeah.
text message. I fucking love it here. We love voting in Colorado. By the way, other state listeners,
Right.
This could be you.
If you're wondering why you're getting a ballot, right, this week or next, we're going to talk about that in our next episode. We'll give you a rundown of what you should really be focused on in terms of the ballot, the races that we think are a little more interesting than others. A lot of city, local races. So some of them we're not going to pretend we know too much about, but we'll give you the updates next week.
Couple statewide ballot measures to shore up the funding for the free school meals program, which listeners know we're big fans of, as well as we are interviewing every single candidate running for school board and city council throughout the state.
We are?
No. That would be a very, very.
I think I'm
very
out
bad
that
idea.
day.
It is a holiday after all.
All right, so it's time to begin again with the government shutdown, which has reached into double-digit days, and there's no end in sight. We'll catch up with a couple of the big updates. The IRS is furloughing half of its workforce, which is, I don't know, I kind of think it's like a double furlough because it means a lot of money in taxes probably isn't being collected.
To say nothing of the fact that the IRS is basically reduced to what my buddy calls 3 Doge teenagers in a trench coat at this point.
Right. Community health centers in Colorado and around the country have become big news because they're in trouble. There's about $111 million annually from the federal budget that goes to Colorado clinics to cover care for uninsured people. That money lapsed at the end of September. A bunch of these community clinics do have money through the end of the year, maybe, but basically they're going to have to make some tough decisions very soon. That could be a big problem for a lot of people, particularly in rural Colorado.
And this is part of the Mike Johnson and company lie about the big bullshit bill and about what Democrats want out of the shutdown negotiations and all this stuff, right? Is they're saying all this money is here for illegal immigrants or undocumented people. They never actually say
Right.
undocumented people. It's a lie. There's a federal law that Ronald Reagan signed that requires every hospital emergency room to not let people bleed to death on the side of the road. That is objectively a fucking good thing.
Right.
But it still costs money to treat those people, whether they're documented or otherwise. Those hospitals, especially like you said in rural parts of the state, are out hundreds of millions of dollars every single year. This money is partially to make them whole so that they don't collapse under the weight of uncompensated care. This is what we've been talking about for weeks now. If you cut Medicaid, if you don't extend the tax cuts for the ACA premiums, if you increase the cost across the board in the healthcare system, it has a domino effect that keeps on going. It doesn't stop. It doesn't just punish bad people or punish the people that Mike Johnson thinks deserve to be punished. It hurts everybody. Taxpayers, people with documentation, people without documentation, healthcare providers, and everybody in between.
The healthcare stories are everywhere, which really, supported by the Democrats' messaging. We talked about this last week. We'll talk about it more in a minute. The Kaiser Family Foundation, well, I guess they used to be called that. Now they're just KFF. They're estimating premium increases for everybody in America averaging at about 114% increase.
So that's take what you're paying right now, double it, and add a little.
Yep. That's what's going to happen.
And that's not ACA. That's not Obamacare only. That's everybody.
Everybody. There was also a great story from National Public Radio earlier this month with this Republican insurance commissioner from North Dakota saying that he thinks there's bipartisan support for renewing the subsidies. He said, quote, "You're looking at a family that maybe was paying $800 a month for their health insurance, and that jumps to $3,000. This is North Dakota Insurance Commissioner John Gottfried. That's that's not a sustainable increase for anybody.
And at a certain point, people are going to realize who is doing this to them. And they already have. I mean, a lot of the polling that we showed last week and that we've seen ever since is just showing everybody knows that Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. They're in charge. Costs are going up under their watch, and they're going to be held responsible for it. Now, it is a shame that we have to learn this lesson every so often in this country, that you actually put Republicans in charge. They fucking destroy everything. You elect Democrats. They go ahead and fix everything. Things are good, but maybe not perfect. So you fire all the Democrats and put Republicans back in charge, and they destroy everything. We have to do it all fucking again.
Right.
Over and over and over again, as long as I've been alive. But this is a pretty simple proposition. Donald Trump and Republicans run the federal government. Everybody knows that. Your costs are skyrocketing under their watch. You should probably consider putting the other guys in charge. And I will also admit, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I wasn't totally sold on this fixation on ACA premiums as the main strategy. I am totally fucking converted now. Democrats have circled the wagons, have owned the message, have owned the narrative on this, and almost more impactfully, Republicans can't get their shit together and figure out their initial gambit of blaming everything on people without documentation is not working because they're getting fact-checked everywhere they go. And there was even, I don't know if we're going to play this later, but there was a great clip on Mike Johnson, for some fucking reason, decided to sit down on C-SPAN and take calls.
Yeah, we've got
And he got his ass kicked. We'll play that clip in a little bit.
On the on the issue of Democrats sticking to their message, here's Senator John Hickenlooper on the Senate floor recently.
Mr. President.
The senator from Colorado.
Mr. President, this really is a turning point for our country, and a turning point in our fight to make health care more accessible for all Americans. For the first time in 6 years, the government is shut down. Certainly nobody wanted to get to this point, including me. But we're here for one reason, because the MAGA Republicans shut down the government because they refused to address the health care crisis that they've created. Earlier this summer, the administration passed what we call the Big Bad Betrayal Act, as we call it, at a time when Americans are begging for financial relief. They were stripped of health care, faced with the loss of health care for 15 million people. That's right. The MAGA Republicans have gutted more than $1 trillion over the next 10 years from Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act, health care that literally millions of Americans rely on.
Yep.
There it is.
That's what they're
they
doing.
just keep saying it, and
Yep.
it's working.
It's working, and people, it's sinking in, and like, it hasn't even really hit yet. Like, you're starting to message discipline matters a lot. It's good. It's good to say the same thing over and over and over again because people aren't paying attention to you every single time you talk. So if John Hickenlooper's in the Senate floor saying it, and Raphael Warnock is on social media saying it, and Tim Walz is in the governor's mansion in Minnesota saying it, and Jared Polis is in Colorado saying it, all of a sudden people are like, wait a second, it's these motherfuckers' fault that my healthcare premiums are going up. Well, get together and fix it, would ya?
Right. On the other side, we talked recently about how the Trump administration really only knows how to be aggressive and punitive in its actions. Donald Trump now, after threatening to fire most of the federal workers who are now furloughed, he's threatening to withhold their back pay. Listen to this. Here's Kyle Clark with 9 News.
The Trump administration is threatening to increase the financial pain for federal workers during the government shutdown in an attempt to get Democrats to cave and pass the Republican budget. The administration is now threatening to withhold back pay for federal workers who are on the job during the shutdown. Now, the law says that federal workers should receive back pay following a shutdown. But in a memo last night, the White House Budget Office outlined a legal argument to deny back pay to some 750,000 furloughed federal workers. It argues that the law signed by Trump in 2019 leaves it up to Congress to authorize back pay for federal employees as part of a funding bill to end the shutdown. When asked about it today, President Trump said that back pay, quote, depends on who we're talking about, and said, quote, there are some people who don't deserve to be taken care of.
That's the whole thing right there, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't understand the point of this. Like I said, he's already threatened to fire most of these people. And now he's saying, I'm not going to pay you, even though I might fire you. But also, if you're one of these federal employees who is furloughed, but you still have to, or if if you have to go to work, but you're not getting paid, why would you keep showing up?
I don't know. I think a lot of them have a duty to serve and a service-oriented mindset,
Right.
but at a certain point, you have to pay your fucking bills. And if the president of the United States is saying there's about a 50-50 shot that you won't get paid, and the way he tends to implement his policy is based on who his loyalists are, and you happen not to be one of them, then I'm not sure. And it's terrible news, because we actually do need the federal government to function.
Yeah. Trump's untrustworthiness in general is also making it tough to move forward on ending the shutdown because of his rescissions, where he's not refusing to spend money that the Congress has already approved, and a bunch of his other lies about tariffs and things. His negotiating position is weakened. If you're Democrats and he's saying, well, just put the government back to work and then we'll do X, Y, Z, you have no reason to believe him.
No, you can't trust this guy. All he does is lie and cheat and steal and go back on his promises, the rescissions, the impoundments, the money that Congress has already appropriated. So no, there's no good faith negotiation with this guy. There's no way to trust him. And I honestly don't know if there's really an end in sight here at this point, because they were banking on the Senate Democrats kind of blinking, and they are not going to.
Right. And then, meanwhile, they're not changing their strategy. Here's another great example of this only attacking, never compromising from Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. Air traffic controllers have played a big role in ending previous shutdowns. As we know, there have been a lot of flight delays already. Some air traffic controllers, these are people that have to show up to work, but they're not getting paid. They've been calling out sick, things like that. So what does Duffy do? Threatens them, of course. He says that problem children air traffic controllers who call out sick could lose their jobs. Quote, if we have some of our staff that aren't dedicated, we're going to let them go. Again, I can't have people not showing up to work, unquote. Just as we mentioned earlier, if Trump's saying you're not going to get back pay, why would you show up?
Wasn't this the whole
What is
thing
this
in
threat?
Doge to begin with anyway?
Right.
Like, we dealt with this at the beginning of the administration when Elon Musk was running around just like firing hundreds of thousands of people willy-nilly, and then like airplanes started falling out of the sky and crashing into each other, and flight delays were happening, and now you have that on top of a recession, or a recession on top of that, plus you have a shutdown on top of that.
Right. And then you're just threatening people. Well, at some point, the threats don't matter anymore.
No, I mean, like, if you're an air traffic controller who's being threatened by your boss, Sean Duffy, do you really need to take that bullshit?
No.
That's not good.
the firings will continue until morale improves, I guess.
Well, so what now?
Well, there's no indication the House will be back at work anytime soon. They weren't in session during the week of the 6th. They've already announced they won't be in session during the week of the 13th. Again, this is as much about Jeffrey Epstein, I think, as it is about funding the government, because
Right. Don't forget, Raul Gravalia's daughter, Adelita Gravalia, won a special election for his seat a couple of weeks ago, has yet to be sworn in because she is the 208th signature for the discharge petition that will release the Epstein files, and Donald Trump is all over the goddamn Epstein files. So Mike Johnson, who God sent to protect us from Satan or whatever, is the one standing in the way of the release of the Epstein files because he won't swear in a duly elected colleague, which is just fucked up.
It's hard to keep blaming Democrats when you keep closing the office.
Yeah,
Like,
that's really tough stuff. And it's not just Democrats who are pissed off about this. Listen to this Republican who called into the CNN show that Mike Johnson unwisely
C-SPAN.
Oh, sorry, even worse. C-SPAN show that Mike Johnson unwisely put himself.
And for those of you who can't see the video, that's too bad, because Mike Johnson just looks like he ate a bug. I don't know how
his
else
like thin-lipped grimace is more grimacy and thin-lipped than usual.
As a Republican, I'm very disappointed in my party, and I'm very disappointed in you because you do have the power to call the House back. You did that, or you refused to do that just for a show. I am begging you to pass this legislation. My kids could die. We don't have the credit because of the medical bills that I have to pay regularly. You could stop this, and you could be the one that could say military's getting paid. And I think that it is awful, and the audacity of someone who makes 6 figures a year to do this to military families is insane.
Bam.
Whew. This is a Republican woman from a military family. She's had enough. Now here's Johnson showing absolutely no self-awareness at all at a different press conference.
If you look at the polling, the people's faith in the federal government is at an all-time low. Why? Because they don't see that it's being done well.
No shit.
You'll see that retweet from Midas Touch up there. Wow, that's crazy. Who's running the federal government?
Right. And here's another response from that same press conference to what we were talking about earlier. The theme here is Johnson just having no idea what to say anymore.
About saying it was on the Senate, they have to take our bill that would reopen the government, but haven't the circumstances changed? And because there's a dire emergencies, Mr. Donald talks about the Capitol Police, we all talked about the military, to say we should do something different here. We're still going to apply our pressure on the Senate, but you know, if you're in the middle of a ball game and the strategy changes, you're behind, or somebody gets hurt or something like that, the coach calls in different play. Why not call in a different play right now?
Well, the ball game analogy doesn't fit here because we weren't playing a game. We sent over a clean CR, and I've explained this many times. If there was some Republican priority or poison pill or gimmick or trick or something that I could pull off the CR in order to negotiate with Democrats, I would have already done it. It's not there. When I say we're operating in good faith, I mean it. We sent over a totally clean measure that they had already voted for before. In fact, that Chuck Schumer gave impassioned speeches as recently as March of this year.
Your analogy is no good because this isn't a game. That's why it's an analogy, dickhead.
Yeah, no shit.
That's the point of an analogy. Trump will fold eventually. He talked earlier in the week about saying that we should make a deal in order to help healthcare. He kind of backed off that, but you get the sense that he's saying that this isn't working well for him.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's an interesting question because there's 2 routes Democrats could take here, right? Let's say he folds, which he kind of has no choice but to do at a certain point because Democrats are not blinking, right? They're like, nope,
right.
We said we want you to extend these tax credits to make sure healthcare doesn't skyrocket for people. Do that, and we'll come back to the table. It's tempting, if you're Democrats, to want to move the goalpost into the ocean and just keep asking for shit and say, all right, now we need the Epstein files. All right, now we need the military out of our cities and states. Now we need you to stop, doing all this horrible shit with ICE, yada, yada, yada. But it is a little unclear on the end game from Democrats in terms of what they're going to do. Let's say if
I think you got to
fold.
take the win. You got to take the win.
Because then you show, we talked about this off air a little bit, but your point, I think, was then you show that he can be defeated and beaten, and you start to give courage to universities and film studios and big companies who are all bending the knee. If House Democrats can fucking stand up to this guy and make him blink, so can you.
Yeah, it takes some of the edge out of the idea that Trump is just doing whatever he wants. You know, if they get him to fold on anything, then now you've started everybody down that path of resisting and showing that there are actual results. And I think this is also possible because there are Republicans speaking out again, like Georgia Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's sounding reasonable. It's freaking weird. She tweeted recently, "Hi, this is your daily reminder that insurance has become unaffordable for most Americans. Health, auto, and home. I wish my party would make this a priority," unquote.
She is doing, there was another video clip I saw of her, like, at CNN. They're saying who's responsible, and she goes, House and Senate Republicans. Like, DCCC, go ahead, grab those. Those are your ads. Run them right now. Show people who's responsible. Republicans are saying it, especially, like, a pretty out there one.
Like, this isn't like a moderate Republican saying it.
This isn't like Don Bacon out there throwing his party under the wheel so he can, like, win moderates in Nebraska. This is fucking Marjorie Taylor Greene.
All right, let's talk a little bit more about our dear leader. Voters are not happy with the cost of goods, and they shouldn't be. New polling from Navigator Research shows that voters are blaming Trump, Republicans, tariffs because of increased costs, particularly rising costs in groceries, all of which Trump said he was going to fix.
Because he doesn't know what groceries are, because he hasn't set foot in a grocery store outside of a photo op in 80 years. Nearly 7 in 10 battleground constituents say that tariffs have increased costs so far.
Yeah.
69% says it's increased. Only 19% says it's had no impact. Of course, 96% of Democrats say it, but 73% of independents are saying that tariffs have increased their costs so far. Non-MAGA Republicans, aka the ones still making some contact with reality, about 50% of them are saying that too. And a majority of battleground constituents think that Trump's policies are increasing costs, largely even outside of tariffs. 54% say that Trump's policies are making costs go up. Only 12% stay the same. And only 31% are saying they are going down, which I would like to live where they live if that is the case. Again, MAGA Republicans, being a Donald Trump supporter has such a distorting effect on reality.
It does.
75% of them say that his policies are making costs go down, where everybody else is saying it's making them go up.
Well, and where this relates to the shutdown is if you have a majority of the country saying it's Donald Trump's policies that are hurting our economy, why would you think that those same people are going to buy the argument that Democrats are behind the shutdown?
Good. You'd have to think voters are pretty stupid, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would. Yeah. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi, the puppy killer Noem, is losing what remained of her marbles. We'll start with President Trump, who has gotten obsessed with Portland, Oregon, where he's sending in the National Guard, or trying to.
One thing I have to say is that Washington, D.C. was almost as bad. I don't know what could be worse than Portland. You don't even have stores anymore. They don't even put glass up. They put plywood on their windows, but most of the retailers have left. But Washington, D.C. was so bad.
You don't even have stores anymore, Jason. No stores in Portland. You can't even buy a brick to throw it through a window anymore.
No, this is so similar to something we joked about years ago when the Republicans in Colorado were saying this about Denver. Like, Denver's a smoking crater on the ground. And, you know, it's silly.
It's just unsupported by reality. And one has to ask the question, is Trump being shown, like, images and videos from, like, 2020 and the George Floyd protests and assuming it's happening now? Or even worse, is he being shown, like, AI generated images of, like, cities burning to the ground and thinks that literally actually believes that Portland, Oregon doesn't have any stores with glass windows anymore?
No
Meanwhile,
stores,
you're seeing
no
people
glass.
all over social media posting pictures of, like, war-torn Portland, and it's like a bunch of people sitting outside drinking coffee, and then at night they all get into, like, inflatable Halloween costumes and dance.
Yes. So Kristi Noem was in Portland with a camera crew. She was shown looking down from the top of a building at a handful of protesters, some in costumes, but all of them just kind of milling around peacefully. And in order to sort of explain why she wasn't able to see, everything burning, here's what she said at the White House later.
Cities. I was in Portland yesterday and had the chance to visit with the governor of Oregon and also the mayor. They're in town and they are absolutely covering up the terrorism that is hitting their streets. While you talked about some of the stories of our ICE agents, our Border Patrol agents, how they have been attacked, how they have been shot at, injured, the damage that they've done, these leaders in these local cities, along with Pritzker and Johnson, ignore what's going on, or, sir, they're helping Antifa cover it up. We have arrested dozens of individuals that are Antifa members or affiliated with them, and I want to thank our Attorney General for prosecuting them and making sure they never see the light of day again.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. So the mayor and the chief of police are working with Antifa,
and the governor.
a group that does not fucking exist. It's not like Moms for Liberty where they have like an Antifa email list.
Right.
Like you don't go and like get a membership card.
Right.
It's like, are you protesting as the administration? This thing I saw that I think is actually interesting is that one of the first thing fascist regimes do is make it illegal to be anti-fascist.
Right. That's true. And then as she's speaking, all I could think of is this Instagram video. And I thought, you mean these? This Antifa? Is this the one?
Is this Antifa? Who can even tell what Antifa is anymore? But this certainly doesn't seem to be.
For those who can't see it.
Is that Reptar from the Rugrats?
I don't know. There's like a green dinosaur and
like a raccoon and like a
raccoon.
Unicorn. Yeah,
They're in these blow-up costumes dancing in the streets. It's a fantastic way to protest, I think, because
I think it's the only way to do it now.
What do you do in response?
You
can do.
Phil Weiser was on Kyle Clark earlier this week, and I'm not sure if we have this for this episode or not, but Kyle was asking the AG, like, what do people do if they don't like what's going on here? And Phil was just extremely insistent that we have to protest, but we have to do it peacefully. There's a No King's Day protest coming up again, I think the 18th of October. If you're able to, if you feel safe enough, you feel healthy enough, go out there and do it. Get out in the streets, but definitely be peaceful. They're trying so hard to will this narrative into reality that there's a violent protest movement attacking ICE agents and all this bullshit all over the country. None of this is happening. And then you just see these
people dancing in the streets.
And if every single clip that comes out is people like dancing to like reggaeton or EDM in an inflatable Halloween costume, like it's very hard to make their narrative stick.
It is. The Senate Republicans are busy not ending the shutdown and bending their knee to Donald Trump again. They recently voted down legislation that would have put a check on Trump's ability to use deadly military force against drug cartels after Democrats tried to counter that assertion of presidential war powers to destroy vessels in the Caribbean. The vote fell along party lines 48-51, with two Republicans, Rand Paul and Lisa Murkowski, voting in favor with Democrats, and Democratic Senator John Fetterman voting against. I don't know what his deal is, though.
It's bewildering. It's unfortunate. I don't know what else to say. A lot of progressives and liberals and lefties worked really hard for Fetterman in his Senate race against fucking Dr. Oz. And now he's just voting the same way Dr. Oz would have voted. And Dr. Oz is running the Department of
Medicaid.
Health and Human Medicaid. CMS. It's no good.
And we'll close out this Trump segment with a couple of fun clips just to lighten things up. Trump says the music producer Sean Diddy Combs has asked him for a pardon, which led to this unintentionally hilarious comment from Trump via ABC News.
President Trump says Sean Diddy Combs has asked him for a pardon.
I have a lot of people who have asked me for pardons. I call him Puff Daddy has asked me for a pardon.
Combs is serving a 4-year sentence in a New York City jail on 2 prostitution-related charges. Attorneys for Combs have not commented on President Trump's remarks, but they are asking to move his sentence to a low-security federal prison in New Jersey.
I call him Puff Daddy. What a jackass.
He's wearing his vintage basketball throwback.
And here's one more just for kicks.
The President of the United States dissembling and front of all of our eyes.
I also have two questions for you, if I may. Have you given any more thought to possibly suspending habeas corpus to not only deal with these insurrectionists across the nation, but also to continue rapidly deporting illegal aliens?
Yeah, it's suspending who?
Habeas corpus. So.
I don't know. I'd rather leave that to Kristi.
Who is this habeas corpus guy?
Have you heard of Mr. Habeas, Mr. Corpus? Is anybody who is Mr. Corpus?
I don't know. Should we suspend him? I don't know. What do you think, Pam? Well, maybe we should. Our eighth favorite member of Congress, Gabe Evans, continues his tour of destruction. We've talked about this before, but if he shows up at your business or your nonprofit organization, you're probably fucked.
Yeah, run in the other direction or close the doors.
As Colorado Newsline reports, the Trump administration's campaign of retaliation against clean energy funds that had already been approved by Congress is happening in Colorado. Colorado businesses, universities, and state agencies have been left in the dark about funding. Terminated grants include about $300 million to Colorado State University, $70 million for Xcel Energy, and $50 million for the Tribal Energy Consortium. Evans, just a few months ago, was going to these new energy or these new renewable energy projects and doing photo ops. Now he's not saying anything. Naturally,
why would he? It's the same thing. It's a version of what Lauren Boebert used to do, right? Vote against the thing and then try and take credit for it.
Right.
Very cynical stuff. But instead, he's voting for things that are getting things in his district canceled and not saying shit about the thing that he already did a photo op with.
Also interesting to note, Evans recently endorsed State Senator Barb Kirkmeyer for governor, which is, I'm not sure I would have done that if I were him.
I thought he was going to be a Victor Marxist like the rest of the good far-right representatives. It's going to be really interesting to see if this hurts him with his sort of mega base and if they turn on him because he's with some establishment lady that believes the government should work or something like that.
And Kirkmeyer ran for Congress in the 8th Congressional District in 2022 and lost. So
right, and she's certainly going to lose either the primary or the general in any event. She will not be governor of Colorado.
Right. All right, let's go to our bullshit segment where we applaud people for calling out nonsense in the Trump administration. Here's Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker telling Kristi Noem to just grow up. All right, we've got some 2026 updates nationally and here in Colorado. I wanted to start with some sneaky big news in Utah because it's something you probably didn't see, but it could be really important. A judge has ruled that Utah's congressional maps must be redrawn for the 2026 elections because right now all of Utah's members of Congress are Republicans. It didn't used to be that way. There is a base of Democrats around the Salt Lake City area, but what Republicans did in the last redistricting round is cut that into 4s to dilute the Democratic vote and allow Republicans to win every district.
Very typical gerrymandering tactic.
Right.
You take the most populated area that tends to be more liberal or more Democratic, and you crack it up into a bunch of different areas, pop it in with some other Republican suburbs, and voila, no more Democrats.
Right. But if they can force Republicans are going to try to run out the clock and make this change in 2028. But if they can force it for 2020, that means Democrats could pick up a seat in a state that really nobody had on the board.
Yeah, it's just another one toward the majority, and Republicans only have, a 3-seat majority right now in Congress? They can't afford to lose a fucking Utah congressional seat.
No.
This is one that Democrat Ben McAdams, I think, was the last one to represent in 2018.
Yeah, they do get elected if the map
in
is
a fair fight. Yeah, exactly.
Maine's 2-term governor Janet Mills announced that she will challenge incumbent Republican Senator Susan Collins. This is big. I don't think Democrats can win back the Senate in 2026. We've talked about this before. The map is just bad this cycle for Democrats. The seats that are up are places like Texas and Florida, where it's hard to be competitive if you're a Democrat.
This is the 2014 Senate map, so a traditionally bad year for Democrats. It's just the Senate is split into 3 different classes because everyone serves for 6 years. Every 2 years, there are some Senate seats up, and this 2014, 2026 map is one of the least favorable for Democrats, unfortunately.
But knocking out Susan Collins in 2026 would be a big head start for 2028 when
That's right,
Democrats
and
can get the Senate.
Janet Mills is really popular, but I will flag that she is 77 years old, which means 3 years into her Senate term, if elected, she will be celebrating her 80th birthday.
Well, that makes her like 30 years younger than Susan Collins.
Well,
yeah, I mean, that issue probably matters less when you're running against someone equally old, but maybe. Here in Colorado, Republican State Representative Rebecca Kelty won't seek re-election in 2026 in her Colorado Springs House District, citing unspecified health and family concerns, but also probably frustrated that her divisive political rhetoric didn't do anything in the legislature. Kelty's a bit of a nut. She said at the end of the legislative session in May that Colorado should be burned to the ground. I think we played that clip at the time, but here it is again.
These people, I'm telling you, I've never seen a group of people that are so, like, I guess, for lack of a better term, evil. You know, I feel it when I come in there. You know, I pray. As soon as I enter the building, I pray. As soon as I enter that room, I pray. So while I'm in there, I'm praying. As I leave, I'm praying. Like, I have never prayed so much in my life. And it's just the feeling and the fact that I went in there with an open mind of respect. I have lost almost all of them, except for maybe a few, but all respect. Like, I can't even look at them in the face. It's very difficult for me to think that, you know, they even have a soul. I'm not even sure they even have a soul. And their eyes are just, I don't know. I know it sounds weird, but I'm telling you, these people are
pretty weird.
And the amount of money that they're going through, it's like you get, it's a fiscal note of zero. No, it's going to cost millions of dollars. But they just, they cheat and they scheme and they scam. And your money in Colorado, every penny you give the state is not safe in the hands of these people. It's just not. We're paying for hippie camps. We're paying for, you know, hundreds of brand new vehicles that they don't need. We're paying, I mean, I gave them $70 million of cuts they could make. Because that's what I do in the civilian world. I go through contracts. I look at every word. That's what I do. And I'm like, here you go, silver platter, $70 million worth of cuts just from me. And they just, no thanks. And they just threw it to the side. It's a shame. And I hate to say this, but it's almost like the state of Colorado needs to be burned to the ground and built from the top up. I hate to say that, but from the ashes of the fire will rise.
Jesus Christ.
She seems nice.
Yeah, just glad one of 65 members of the state house will no longer be thinking that Colorado needs to be burned to the ground.
This is also relevant, though, for 2026 because she beat Democrat Stephanie Vigil by 3 votes.
3 votes.
2024.
That's a 3-vote Becky over here.
Right. Vigil is running again. Kelty's departure should give Democrats a bit of an upper hand in taking back this seat and further weakening the Republican micro-minority in the House. And even though there's like 37 people running for governor as Republicans right now, George Brockler, the district attorney formerly of Arapahoe County, now in the new district, I don't even really know where it is, somewhere in Douglas County, he's pushing a text poll that he claims, or supporters of his claim, show he's the Republicans' best chance for governor in 2026, which is just silly.
He was the first Republican to lose the attorney general's race in like a decade. He somehow
lost 2 races in
1 year. That's right. Yeah, and he somehow
he dropped out of the race for governor.
Yep.
Ran for attorney general and lost. Yep. The guy's a schmuck.
Somehow cashed into favor with Forbes to get some poll to be published saying Colorado's really in play. And we just have to remember and remind viewers and listeners that this was the same bullshit that they were peddling about Joe O'Dea in 2022 when Michael Bennet handed him his ass with absolutely no trouble because Colorado was not in play.
Yeah. Brockler's a goof. This isn't happening.
Nope.
All right, let's do a couple of quick hits and then we'll get out of here. There are 2 races for governor in November in Virginia and in New Jersey. I think in Virginia, well, actually, probably in both of them, I think Democrats are favored. In Virginia, Democrat Abigail Spanberger, a former congresswoman, is running against Republican Winsome Earl Sears, who is the lieutenant governor. In a recent debate, Earl Sears was laser focused on trans kids.
have their safe space. This is not hard. Are you going to change in a gym where men are nude in the locker rooms? Are you going to do that, Abigail?
Ms. Earl
I
Sears.
don't think you will. What about your girl children if they came home crying and said that
Ms.
there
Earl
was
Sears,
a male
we're gonna
in
do
the
a
locker
follow-up
room?
question with you.
What would you do?
You will both have a chance to rebut, too, so I want to make sure that you both understand that. Ms. Earl Sears.
But don't worry about that, because she's totally not discriminating. Listen to her say it. Really, she's not.
Opponent has previously said that she does not think that gay couples should be allowed to marry. She has said that she is quote unquote opposed to same-sex marriage. My opponent has also previously said that she thinks it's okay for someone to be fired from their job for being gay. That's discrimination.
She doesn't deny the fact, but she just says it's not discrimination. Yikes, McGleeks.
How is that not discrimination?
God.
As we talked about in our interview earlier, Congresswoman Lauren Boebert is laser focused also on something else: aliens.
Yeah, another distraction from the Epstein files, which she says she supports releasing and then doesn't vote for, and sometimes maybe gets her.
Although I do
staff
think
involved.
Boebert actually is interested in this for some reason.
And the alien shit? Yeah, for sure.
In an email addressed to conservatives, she questioned the existence of aliens, demanded transparency from the government about UFOs, and then asked for campaign donations.
So good.
She
Help
says,
me
quote,
fight the space aliens.
Right. She says, quote, strange crafts have been spotted soaring through our skies, defying the laws of physics, and yet the bureaucrats in Washington act like we're too naive to handle the facts.
Wow.
They tell us we're crazy, like we can't see these things flying through the air with our own eyes.
I mean, in the world of like AI, it's like impossible. Like I'm sure there were like grainy pictures of people with like fishing poles and flying saucers and whatnot that like looked realistic, but like I guess I'm just never gonna believe anything unless an actual space alien walks up to me and says hi.
And this is just not a serious person. I mean, this is what she's saying during the shutdown. This is her message.
Right. When people in her district are actually struggling.
Lauren Boebert's candidate for governor, Victor Marx, is a ministry leader. We talked about him in our last episode. He spends a lot of time on podcasts, radio shows, and speaking tours, talking about things like how to be a man. We started a regular feature on Colorado polls that we thought we'd continue here with the audio version. We're calling it This Week in Marxism. Here's one of Victor Marx's sermons from some point in the recent
Ladies,
past.
here's a little secret. Be very careful for the nice ones. Nice guys want something. They're nice for a reason. And when things don't turn out the way they want, they're not nice anymore. Hey, that's gold right there. Believe me.
Jesus Christ.
So go for the bad guys? I don't understand.
It's not great advice. I don't think we should spend too much more
Maybe
time
not
on
make
it.
him governor. The Nobel Peace Prize was awarded this week, and it's not Donald Trump.
And that's pretty much all we got to say about that.
Yep.
And it
Texas
probably won't be.
No, I don't think it's going to be. Texas Republicans have begun their march toward eventual irrelevance, doing something that I think Colorado Republicans would like to do. They are considering censuring Republican representatives who aren't conservative enough, which would make them ineligible for the primary ballot. Essentially, they're trying to find a way to make sure that only the craziest of them can make a primary ballot, which is great for Democrats and anyone else, because that means you're running in a general election against someone who is batshit crazy. This is such a dumb idea.
It's not unlike what Republicans try to do here by like opting out of open primaries and getting rid of signatures and doing all the kind of shit Dave Williams wanted to do. But a state like Texas, I mean, it's pretty Republican. There is a breaking point for this kind of thing, though.
Right. It won't happen soon, but this is how they end up losing a majority down the line. And finally, our gibberish of the week. We've got two of them from an Oval Office press conference with President Trump and Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. We'll start with RFK Jr. just spouting nonsense.
There's many other confirmation studies There's 2 studies that show children who are circumcised early have double the rate of autism. And it's highly likely because they're given Tylenol. So, none of this
Here we go.
is positive.
The fucking Tylenol shit again. Absolutely unbelievable.
So they're given Tylenol after they're circumcised, and that is what gives them autism that one time?
I'm fucking sorry, but like, this guy is coming for vaccines and fucking acetaminophen. Like, what are we doing? The amount of damage that he will have done to public health in this country by the time he's finished with this fucking job is absolutely incalculable.
Well, and not just that, it's how damaging it is for down the line when Trump is gone and we're trying to rebuild these organizations. No one's going to believe them.
Right.
And to that end, here's President Trump himself on vaccines.
So think of that, 1 in 20,000, and now it's 1 in 12 for boys, 1 in 18, 19 for girls. So obviously there's something that's artificially, I think, induced, something, whether it's the vaccines in terms of these massive vaccines that are twice the size of a jar like that.
Oh.
Of a glass of water like that, I mean, into a baby's body.
A jar of vaccination into a baby.
I have a baby. We take him for his vaccines. There's not a jar the size of water, man.
They don't put a gallon of vaccine in him.
That's not what we're doing.
That's so stupid. It's beyond parody at this point.
We just gotta hope we can hang on for another 3.5 years.
Yeah. Well, that's all the hanging on you got to do this week.
The Get More Smarter podcast is a production of ColoradoPolls.com and the Big Horn Company. Your hosts are me, Ian Silverian, America's dad,
Jason Bain,
who managed to figure out how to engineer and produce this thing. I make the video version sometimes. Megan makes a video version sometimes. Megan does a lot of other stuff too. We hope you continue to feel better. Breakmaster Cylinder made our theme song. Get your shots while you still can. Use your Tylenol while you still can. Protect your trans kids, your autistic kids, your immigrant kids, and any other kids in your life, really. Subscribe to YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Rate the show and leave us a comment on Apple Podcasts or a review if you got more smarter. It actually helps us a lot. Come battle the trolls in our YouTube comment section and find us at getmoresmarter.com, where you can sign up once I catch up for bonus content in our Substack. Please send all angry and non-angry rants to angryrants at getmoresmarter.com. Other stuff to Ian, getmoresmarter.com, and other stuff to Jason at getmoresmarter.com. Thank you so much to Trisha Calvarese for joining us this episode, and thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.